Again, we can start with a short breathing meditations. Try to keep your body in the right posture. And make yourself comfortable. And just observe the breath mindfully for a few moments. Once your mind is settled down, then we can contemplate. As long as we follow our selfish attitude and self-grasping ignorance. Is always, our mind will be always disturbed, agitated by something. And by being disturbed and agitated, we will always experience mental anguish, pain, and suffering. No matter what the conditions are, no matter how others interact with us, we will always find something that we are not happy about. No matter how the situation changes, no matter how others try to change themselves, we will never feel satisfied and happy. On the other hand, if we are able to reduce and eliminate our own selfish attitude and self-grasping ignorance, even the external condition doesn't change or change, we'll be able to find more peace and happiness. Whether the other people's behavior, attitude change or not, it doesn't make differences. We will be able to keep our mind undisturbed, more peaceful, more happy, joyful. Therefore, if we want to be more happy, more peace, more calmness in our mind, our life, it is so important to reduce and destroy the selfish attitude, the self-centeredness, and self-grasping ignorance. And to be able to do that, we must reflect, contemplate, meditate, and practice correctly, continuously. For that, we need to be reminded of those practices by listening, reading, studying. Therefore, I'm going to listen, not only listen, but try to integrate as much as possible in my everyday life. May all of us coming here together to listen, to reflect, contemplate, may all of this become cause and conditions to achieve our highest potential, the fully awakened state. So we can be greatest benefit to all others and oneself. Okay. So then we'll jump to that.
Praise to Shakyamuni Buddha 3 times in English. To the founder of the endowed and destroyer, one God beyond, the destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Siddhartha, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the deliverer from Tsongkhapa. I must make offerings and look for refuge. To the founder of the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one God beyond, the destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good oneness, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the dwarf of the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder of the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one God beyond, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Siddhartha of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you now the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed and destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the deliverer from Tsongkhapa. I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. Short mandala offering, once in Tibetan. Sajibo Ji Ju, Shi, Ren, To, Tra, Ri, Li, Shi, Ni, De, Ya, Ba, Li, Sa, Ge, Shi, Go, Ne, Te, Wu, Wa, Idam Guru Rana Mandala Sarayami. Refuge in bodhicitta, once in English, twice in Tibetan. I go for refuge to the divine, suspended by the merest sight created to the Dharma. May I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Song, get Chodan, so get Chodan, La, Chan Chu Par, Du, Da, Mi, Chan Su, Chi, Da, Ji, Chun, Yen, Ji, Pe, Son, Nam, Ji, Drala, Pen, Jer, Sun, Ge, Tu, Pa, Sho, Song, get Chodan, so get Chodan, La, Chan Chu Par, Du, Da, Mi, Chan Su, Chi, Da Ji Chun Yen Ye Be Son Nam Ji Drola Ben Jer San Ge Tu Pa Sho.
So, good evening, and everyone. Again, welcome. And the topics of today is the patience, the practice of patience, and it's one of practice or quality that important practice quality that we need in our everyday life. And especially I think maybe now, when things are not so easy, what's going in the world, what's going in these countries. Now, our mind can be, when we see things happening, then it can disturb our mind and lead to anger, hatred, and many others, ill with feelings, many other different feelings, emotions, which doesn't change the situation, which doesn't help the situation. Whether you are angry or not, it doesn't change. Whether you are upset or not, it doesn't change. Whether you have hatred, it doesn't change unless you do actions, take action to change. But it hurts ourselves. It make it it disturb our mental peace. It disturb our mental peace. It lessen or it lessen our loving kindness, compassions. And when we are disturbed, then again, when you're not peaceful, when your mind is disturbed, agitated, we tend to hurt people around us. Because for example, if I'm agitated and upset, even someone who is very close to you try to do something, small things can trigger you to get upset. And so then you respond negatively, and it hurts those people. So, so patience is the practice and the antidote to, overcome that disturbed mind, so that your mind is not disturbed by whatever things are happening, to be able to keep your mind undisturbed, unagitated, and not get angry and upset. So that is what the patient mind is able to do. And that is through the practice of patience, then we develop that patient mind. By cultivating that patient mind, then we don't get disturbed and agitated by those events, situations, and so forth, by others' actions and behaviors, attitude, and so forth. We are able to keep our mind more peaceful, more calm. With that more calm, peaceful, we are able to have better space to develop more compassion, more kindness, and we are able to be more help and benefit. So that is the practice of patience that we are going to talk about. And we are going to talk about mainly from as it has been requested, from the Shantideva's Guided Way of Life, chapter 6. Of course, we will not go through each verses, but we'll go through some of the main points that he makes. So in order to have a strong practice to develop a strong patient mind, we need to have strong practice, meditation on patience. In order to have strong practice on meditation, we have to be very inspired to meditate on patience, for example. You should be inspired. If you don't get inspired, then you don't meditate. We listen and say, it sounds good. That's it. It sounds good. It makes sense. Yeah, that is true. But apart from that, we go and we started to react, respond the normal way. We watch, we read, we see, our mind is disturbed, agitated, angry, all things. Because, we don't put into practice, meditate. Because we are not so, inspired maybe, and to meditate. And so in order to get inspired, so that we can actually really practice and meditate, and thereby that we can develop that patient mind, then, meditating, contemplating on the faults or shortcoming of the anger and meditating on the benefit of the patience. First, we need to do that. When you do that, then when you see how anger is harmful, how that anger, hatred, and that kind of harsh mind, how those are so harmful to yourself, harmful to others, harmful in short term, harmful in long terms, on different levels, then you think, oh, this is really harmful. I should put all effort not to allow myself to be in that state. And even we are somehow not being mindful, or the delusion too strong, even in that state, we don't allow ourselves to be in that state for a long time. We try to apply whatever meditation practice so that we can let it go as soon as possible and not hold on there for a long time. So meditation on that helps. On the other hand, we meditate on the benefit and, at the advantage of the patient's mind, how helpful that patient mind is, how it benefit oneself, it benefit others, how it benefit temporary, short term, how it benefit long term. The more we understand more we are convinced through understanding, meditating on that, the more we get inspired to cultivate that patient mind. And when you are more inspired, you feel more effort to do that. If you feel more effort, you will have better result. So that being the case, so then, Shandeva explained with, some of the shortcomings of the harmfulness, the shortcoming or the faults of the anger. One, he talked about, how anger can destroy so many of virtues that we have created in the past, so many of positive potential, positive karma, the virtues that it can be destroyed by by manifesting of moment of anger can destroy that. First of all, it's not easy to, create or accumulate positive karma, virtues, merit, and we try to accumulate with a lot of effort, a lot of practice, and then it can be destroyed like that by the moment of anger. So that is one of the how harmful it is in terms of destroying, especially those virtues and positive karma that has not been supported by the wisdom. And another, he talked about, how anger is, most harmful among all negative emotions in sense of direct harm it brings. Of course, ignorance is very harmful. Attachment is harmful. Selfish attitude is harmful. But in terms of having direct harm violently is the anger. When we are in the moment of anger, that is where we tend to act very violently, aggressively in terms of our speech. We use very hurtful, harmful, harshful speech in that moment. In terms of the word we use, in terms of the tone we use, in terms of hurtfulness, it really hurts others and oneself, in terms of direct physical harm that it does, And that is where we see all over the world, where people kill each other. Most time, those violence, physical fight, killing, shooting, road rages is moment of anger, moment of rage. A lot of people end up in prisons. Not necessarily they are bad people, but in the moment of anger, moment of rage, they did something very harmful, hurtful to someone. When they are not angry, many of them very good persons. When they are not upset and angry, they are good person, kind person. Some of them really nice, but when they are angry, they cannot control. In the moment of anger, they cannot control, and not being able to control that moment, and then they become like a beast from a someone who seems like a enlightened, like a Buddha, bodhisattvas to beast. Not because they are natured by that, but because in a moment of that, they can become like, and that's what the anger does. How incredible harmful in terms of direct violence, aggressions. There's nothing more powerful negative emotion in terms of directly bringing that kind of aggressions. On the other side, when we develop this patient mind that is able to keep your mind undisturbed by whatever others' action, behavior, attitude, and instinct, that mind is one of the most powerful fortitudes, that protect you, most powerful, that can protect oneself from so much damage, to oneself and to others, and so that is so meditating on that, Also, he mentions, when we have that kind of anger, hatred, in the moment of anger and hatred, there's no real peace in your mind. Absolutely no peace. We all experience that. We all, we have gone through that. Absolutely, there's no peace in that moment. In the moment of anger, you cannot sleep. Why? Because your mind is too occupied by that anger, disturbed by that anger. Even you try to eat your favorite food, you cannot taste well, you cannot enjoy it. And whatever normally give you pleasure, whatever, maybe some entertainment, watching a movie, having a nice food, being with a friend, being by the beach, going to the forest. In the moment of anger, nothing all of that give you joy, pleasure. You totally lose all your pleasure in that moment. Nothing can give you pleasure in that moment. Things that give you pleasure normally in that moment of anger, it takes away all this pleasure. That's what it is, And so when you cannot sleep well and when you cannot enjoy and have all this pleasure with things, definitely it's going to affect your emotional, mental health as well as physical health. Also your physical health definitely is going to affect negatively, both on emotional, mental, and physical health, So because of anger, your mind is so restless, unsettled. Because your mind is so restless, unsettled, therefore, you cannot enjoy any of them. So that is how harmful the anger is, in destroying your enjoyment, your happiness, your peace. Mm. When in a moment of anger, as Shantava explained, in a moment of anger or hatred, when you're in that moment, it takes over our mind, and then, we are unable to use our intelligent mind. Unable to use, normally we have this intelligent mind that can use common sense, or to be able to reason and logic. And if I do this will happen. If I don't do this will happen. So rationalize or reasonings, we have that ability, But in the moment of anger, we lose that ability. It takes away that. And that is where people make more mistake. Why do they make that mistake in that moment? Because they couldn't use their reasoning, rationalized mind at that moment. It was emotionally taken over by that anger. And therefore, as Shantava example say, even like you are dependent on someone from where you receive all the help, support, benefit. Normally you regard very highly, respect, feel very gratitude because you get all the support, help. You are very dependent on that. But in the moment of anger, you can't see all of that. And even that sometimes they can even kind of take life of that one who you are very dependent on. If your mind is in calm, peaceful, you never think of that. But you lose that ability in that moment. And that anger, that's what can happen. How harmful it is in terms of the anger, that's how harmful it is. He's one of the Lama shared stories, that there was someone who used to fix the car the Lama had, when he was young in Tibet, and there's a guy who's bold, so he go under the car, it didn't need to be fixed, and then one day something didn't go right, something happened, he was upset and angry, because he was so upset and angry in that moment, he was hitting his head, banging to the car. So what happened? By banging that, he hurt himself. It didn't change the situation, but he hurt himself by banging it. And that's exactly what happened when anger. People punch, hurt themselves, hurt others, hurt themselves. Normally is something that you don't want to hurt yourself. You try to protect yourself being hurt. You don't want to be bleeding your head or your hand. You try to protect every way from being that. But in that moment, you do just that one. That is how it is. Another story, the Lama shared, the Lama says it was shared by Rinpoche, one of his daughters. I think in Tibet, there was a Chinese man who does some kind of astrology, and I think Rinpoche wanted ask someone to do the astrology. I think Rinpoche himself went or he sent someone, that I don't remember clearly. And when he was there, the Chinese man who does the astrology was taking a deep breath and with a broken in front of him with a broken cup. And it turned out he was upset with something, angry. In the moment of upset of anger, he threw very precious, one of very precious cup is broken, all in pieces. Now he's regretting and saying, what did I do, and taking a deep breath. So that is what happens. In that moment of anger, you couldn't see all of that. When that anger subsides a little bit, then you begin to see all the things, mistake you have done, mess you have created, damage you have done. But in that moment, you couldn't see it. That is how harmful, how damaging it can be. So I have a friend, and he had some issue with anger when he was younger, Um, over the time, he got much better. But when he was a little younger, he had issue with anger. So I didn't see myself, but he was sharing. In the monastery, we used to have a, stop with the kerosene all the time. You have to pump, and the kerosene come and you light it. And sometimes it get blocked, and you have something to clear it, small. So he was in kind of a rush, finish class and maybe another class or push up, start quickly. So and then he was having the carrots on the block, so he was trying to clear it because you are impatient. So then you are pushy, you try to do everything quickly and pushy. You want to do because impatience. If you are patient, you could take time and slowly, and you could have just fixed it. But because you are impatient, you are rushing, and then he put in and he got so upset, he just bang it, you know. The stop in moment of that anger, frustrations, he bang it and it become even worse. Now it wouldn't work even as good as before, and then he throw into the garbage, and then he went. Then he came back from the class of puja, and then the next guy to his room, he got that and he fixed it and he was making pie. you and now he regret. Now he regret banging that, throwing it. Now he have to buy, and he doesn't have the money to buy so easily. It was rare. And so these are so many examples where everyone regretted after what the action they have done because it was something they didn't want to do. It was a mistake, but in that moment they couldn't see that. In that moment of anger, the moment of hatred, that they couldn't see that. You know, that is how damaging, how harmful that anger can be, how destructive anger can be. How distracted anger can be.
How do you stop being so angry?
I'm trying to make a pill. Anti-angry. Anti-angry, anti-ignorance, anti-attachments. So I'm if you want to invest, you can invest now. I mean, starting up those pills. Practice meditations. Continue practice. Takes time. But if we continue to practice, meditate, we can make slowly progress. He told the Lama, even he said when we were young, he also had a little bit of short temper. He mentions, but then with the practice, meditations, and he says Shante about this chapter 6, he found very helpful, reflecting, contemplating, meditating on all the different points, different technique, analysis that Shanteva used. Using that, he found very helpful to overcome those anger and to develop more patience, over the years. But he said when he was young, he also had some issue with he said, one time he was memorizing a text. And there was one or two lines he was having very difficult, just to memorize, All other seems fine, but there was one or two lines that he was struggling to memorize. So he got so upset and angry, then, he said the letter, he started to take all the letters, whatever letters, so with his nail, he took that letter, so now you cannot see any letters, see the line. He shared one of the story of that. So it didn't make you memorize. After that, now there's no even the line to memorize. Make it worse, but in that moment of frustration and anger, that is what happened. And so his holiness shared some small story like that, and that was one incident he shared about that. So again, but he said, after he studied this particularly Shantavas and really, contemplating deeply on that and how it changed, yeah. Hmm? Yes, please.
When you say, talk about the individual who became angry and he threw and he broke the cup. Anger does not always, take that form or actually take any form. Sometimes I can, feel myself getting angry and I realize, that it's not where I want to be and that it has no positive product and that it's dangerous, and negative. And so you can, I think sometimes, not always, but with that realization, hold the anger in abeyance and not act on it, not
Yeah.
strike, not say anything cruel and whatnot. When you always say, meditate on it, I don't know what I would be meditating on. I know anger is dangerous and
You are able to do because you meditate a little bit on that contemplating, because you saw
okay.
if you act on that, then all this harm, damage that you can do to others and yourself because of your that understanding. So you try not to do that, so that you are able to do that because you reflect, contemplate on that.
Yeah.
The consequences of that anger, if you act that anger, if you allow your anger to get stronger and continue and allow to give more space and entertain the anger more, when it becomes more intense and more anger, you realize, oh, this anger is harmful, not good, and I don't want to be in that state. I don't want to entertain that anger to be more intense, more stronger. I don't want to act that because it's harmful. So that kind of analyzing and not acting and not giving to it is a meditation, that is part of meditations, that is part of that. But so that is meditation to not to amplify the anger and act that. But of course, if we continue to meditate more deeper level, and if we get good at that, then you wouldn't even get angry to start with.
Can you also relate stress and anger? Stress.
Stress, anger means how?
I think that stress and anger have a relationship.
Oh, yeah.
So I was just going to ask you to speak to that.
Well, it will come later. I think when stress is when you're due to your body and mind, your mind is not happy or not stable or not calm, peaceful, that's what, not relaxed. There's some kind of disturbance, some kind of restless or disturbance whether in body or mind, and that affect our mind, and so that is where it will come, no matter what happens, that fuels the angers, that is one of the fuels of the angers, and so therefore, not the one way of stopping is that you stop that fuel. If you don't give the fuel, then there is no anger arising because of that fuel. And one of that is how to remain peace and calm no matter what happens. And so I think that will come later. Yeah, okay. So then here Shandeva explained by contemplating, meditating on how harmful that anger is to oneself and to others. And also same, if we continue to give space for the anger, if we continue to give fuel to the anger, if we continue to allow the anger to do whatever it wants, that then, it become kind of, pattern, your way of pattern. When something you started to react with anger. And when that becomes habitual pattern, then it's much more harder to overcome it. When it's not pattern, but it happens sometimes, not sometimes, it's a little bit more easier. But when that has become your habit, pattern, that is much more difficult to come. And so again, that's why some people say difficult of overcoming that, because that is the immediate kind of response and automatic response, habit, patterns, So once that happens, it becomes even more difficult to overcome it. So with that kind of all understanding, then we make a strong effort, I will not allow myself, putting all the effort and making determinations, I will not allow myself to give myself to the anger, no matter what, With that strong determinations, then we'll try to again, engage in whatever meditation practice to, not to allow anger to arise. And if it does arises, getting rid of it as soon as possible, letting it go. And then one of the things, mindfulness is helpful. If we have strong mindfulness, you will be able to recognize before the anger arises. Sometimes there are kind of symptom of arises, warning of anger arises. Before the storm, there are some winds, something that it is indication that anger, that the storm is coming. Storm hasn't come, but there are already indications. Maybe even sometime a day before, sometime hours before. Similarly, a lot of those different negative emotions, especially anger, before it arises, there are certain symptoms, sometimes bodily symptoms, sometimes mental symptoms. And if you recognize that symptom and if you take actions, then before even it arises, it is more easier, even more easier. The sooner you are able to recognize, sometimes people can feel in their bodies, So then it's it's a symptom of kind of, anger or hatred arising, or sometimes on different levels that one can feel. And so then if you take the actions or practice meditation that level, then, maybe you can stop even before it arises. That would be even better. And that's what we want to do, in long term, But in short term, when it arises, recognize as soon as possible. And as as you mentioned, then we don't act and we don't give more fuel for anger to entertain the anger, to give more fuel to it to become strong and intense, and continue to give the space. On the other hand, we try to meditate on the advantage and goodness of the patient's mind, how that patient's mind will help us, to bring peace, joy, and happiness now and in the futures, by that patient's mind of undisturbed by whatever is happening, and to be able to keep it undisturbed, unagitated, to be able to keep that mind, and not only there's immediately kind of peace, joy, and unagitated peace in now, but also, will create also more virtues in the futures, happiness, when you are in that state of mind, calm, peaceful, there's a space to develop love, compassion to others. There's more space to help benefit others. And not only there's more space that you are able to, when you are more calm, peaceful, you are able to help more when someone needs help, and when you have you have the opportunity and ability to help, you will be able to reach out and help when you are more calm and peaceful, And so with that, then, I can develop strong determinations to develop that patient's mind, undisturbed patient mind. And so here it says, Shandeva said, therefore we try to, the main enemy is that inner, the anger, the hatred is the main enemy, not the outside. If there is inner enemy of anger, anything can disturb you. We think, these human beings, are the problems. These human beings are the problems. So we escape from the human beings. Okay? But if we have not worked with our anger, frustrations, impatience, then there's no more human being to disturb. But then all the insect, animal will disturb you, make you upset, angry, unhappy. And then you destroy all these insect, animals, everything. There's no insect, there's no animal to disturb you. But if you have not taken care of your inner enemy of anger, hatred, and impatience, frustration, then the weather started to bother you. It's too hot, it's too cold, it's too rainy, it's too dry. I wish I could be in more, dry place. I wish I could be more humid place. I wish I would be in more by the oceans. This and that, always dissatisfied, unhappy, and always disturbed. So even there's nothing disturbed. Maybe you yourself, you are upset with yourself, agitated with yourself, impatient with yourself. So there's no escaping from the enemy disturbance. But once we have taken care of that internal enemy of anger, impatience, frustrations, then you don't have to worry about the others. You yourself is not problem for you. The weather is not problem for you. The insect and animals are not problem to you, disturb you. People are not problem for you. And therefore, as Shantideva mentioned, he give an example, very good example, If you live in a place where it's all over thorny bushes, to protect yourself from being those thorny bushes, if you try to cover all the space with a ladder, it is impossible. The area is too big. You don't have enough ladder to cover all of them. Instead of trying to cover all of them to protect yourself, you just make leather shoes. You wear that shoes, and you will not be disturbed by that, pricked by those bushes. You are protected. He give that examples. Instead of trying to destroy all others external that you feel they are the enemy, which is impossible. Even you destroy all human beings, still there are so many other animals. Even you destroy all the animals, there are all these weathers, climate things. Even you destroy, so there's no way you can destroy all of that make you upset and angry. It's impossible. But if you destroy this inner enemy, you don't have to destroy all of them. You destroy inner enemy, then you protect from all that being disturbed by all of this, And so that is it. Recognizing where is the real enemy. Who is the real enemy? What is the real enemy? At the moment, we don't recognize that. We think enemy is outside. We always think they are the enemy. This one, he or she is the enemy. They are the enemy. We never feel that the real enemy is within ourselves. And it's all about confronting the outside enemy. It's not about confronting the inner enemy. We don't spend so much time to confront the inner enemy. It's always confronting the outside enemy. And it hasn't been successful so far throughout the history. The problem has been how many, I don't know, billions years since human has started. Same problem we are facing, same problem. Why is that? Because all through that, we always have been trying to confront the outside enemy, not the true inner enemy. If we confront the true inner enemy, then there's no external enemy. From your side, there is no external enemy. For someone like Buddha, there's no external enemy from his side. Of course, there might be other people who are trying to, hurt him, trying to, criticize and do all of that. But from his side, he doesn't get hurt by that. From his side, it doesn't disturb his mind. It doesn't affect his mind negatively. It doesn't, because it doesn't disturb his mind, it doesn't hurt his mind, it doesn't upset his mind, they're not enemy. They're not enemy. So there is no enemy, outside enemy, when you have destroyed the enemy inside. And that is where we have to really, that's where Shantideva explained, and that's where we have to really recognize. And then again, I think our understanding of that is still too much just here, not here. Still we spend so much energy, resource to confront the outside enemy. But if we have spent that much of energy to confront the inner enemy, probably we will have made much progress. Probably we will have made much progress. How much time we think of thinking about that external enemy, how bad that person is, how harmful that person, how he's doing this and that, all this, so much energy is spent that. If that much energy is spent to working with the inner enemy, the anger itself, probably we would have made much more progress. You know. So recognizing that inner enemy, that is the real enemy, inner enemy, and putting more effort that, is the key, as Chandeva explained. That's one of the key. That is key, Mm. And so it is, and it is the fuel, that give rise to the anger. So then, no matter what happens, we try to put effort not to give fuel to the anger, the fuel to the anger. And what is the fuel to the anger? The fuel to the anger is unhappy mind. Unhappy mind. That's the main fuel. Of course, physical tiredness, physical stress can also fuel a little bit, but more than that is the mental unhappiness. That is fuel. So therefore, he says, making a strong effort and practice, no matter what happens, what befall on me, I will keep my mind calm, undisturbed, happy, and not allow my mind to be disturbed and unhappy. Because by being unhappy, it doesn't solve the problems. Instead, it gives rise to anger, such as anger, and thereby destroying our virtues. So therefore, I will try all my best in every way to keep my mind undisturbed, and try to keep my mind joyful, happy, regardless of what happens. By understanding, by being unhappy and disturbed, it doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't fulfill what I wish. It doesn't fulfill what I wish. It doesn't solve the problem. Instead, it destroys the virtues, make things worse. So one of the verses, how we can keep our mind happy, that or undisturbed, is one of the verse that His Holiness the Lama, he said he find very helpful. He also find very helpful. He shared that very often. That is the verse where in this Chandeva, why be unhappy about something if it can be remedied? And what is the use of being unhappy about something if it cannot be remedied? So, if we are unhappy, upset, disturbed, angry, about something, first think, is there something that can be done about that? Contemplate, analyze, is there something that can be done about that situations that's making me unhappy, upset, disturbed? Can it be done something? Analyze that, contemplate that. Is there a remedy to that? Is there a solution to that? Can it be fixed? Is there something that can be done? And if you find, yes, there is something that can be done, there is a solution, it can be fixed, there's something to be done, then instead of being unhappy and weary, try to fix it. Try to fix it because it can be fixed. Try to solve it because it can be solved. So instead of spending energy on that, unhappy and disturbed mind, but put the energy to fix it and try to do that. But when you analyze about something, that's disturbing you, that's making you unhappy. And if you find, you analyze, you investigate, and you find there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing we can do about it. Then why worry about it? Why be unhappy? Because there's nothing you can do about it. Instead, accept it joyfully. Embrace it joyfully. It might not change the situation itself, but it makes your mind peaceful, calm, happy. Because it's something, whether your mind accept it or not accept it, it's not going to change. It's because something, there's no solution, it cannot be fixed, there's no remedy to it. It's already happens. So since we cannot change that, just accept it, embrace it with a joyfulness. And by being able to accept it in joyfulness in that way, you wouldn't be unhappy, you wouldn't be disturbed, you wouldn't be agitated. And if your mind is not disturbed, unhappy, then that doesn't give you to anger. Yes.
What if somebody comes and beats you up
Uh-huh.
and you're like, oh, I can't do anything, so I'm gonna be happy. And he does it again and again. And tell me.
um, again, I think patience is a very different. Patient state of mind, it is a lot of time, I think there's a misunderstanding of patience being passive and not responding or not reacting or not taking actions and letting it happen whatever is happening. That's not about the patience. Patience is state of mind. Okay? So you're through different practice, meditation, different analysis, contemplate, you might not be upset and angry by that person's actions or behavior, harmful behavior and actions. But at the same time, you know that kind of behavior, action is not a good in terms of that person's short-term, long-terms, and even in yourself. And so you try to take actions that discourage them from doing that. Whatever actions that you can take to protect yourself or someone else, to discourage them from behaving or acting that harmful action, you take it. You have to do it, but without your mind being disturbed, agitated, angry. So that is what it is. Let me give you two examples. Two different examples. One example, someone is, let's say, abusing me or someone else. Okay? I'm so upset and angry. Very upset and angry. My mind is boiling with fire. But for whatever reason, I don't act. I don't respond. I don't do anything. Okay? For that abusive behavior, whether towards me or someone else. I just take it. I just let it happen. Don't take it. If outside it looked like that person patience, but it's not really patience. Why? Because inside there's so much anger, there's so much hatred, there's so much boiling of anger. Even you don't take any action, response, or that is not patience we are talking about. That is not the patience. So patience state of mind. On other hand, that person's abusive behavior, that person's, is not hurt by that, upset by that, angry by that. This person is very maybe feel even compassion. This person must be suffering so much. This person must be going through so much pain. This person must be overcome by so much delusions, anger, misunderstanding, whatever that might be. That's why this person is behaving, acting that way, either to yourself or others. So your mind is not disturbed, agitated, maybe even feel angry, compassion for that, understanding that. But then you say, such harm actions is harmful. If you allow that person to do it, it is harming yourself or someone else. It will be harmful to them in terms of creating negative karma, for them to do such things, harmful action again and again. With that understanding, you say no, you take actions.
Beat them up.
You don't have to beat them up. If you feel if you beat them up is the best way, then you can beat it down. But so in that case, that person responds in whatever, however they feel that is the best wise response. The response, it seems is that person not patient, but that person patience. So patient state of mind, not the outside, whether you defend, not defend, whether you act, not act. And sometimes in some cases, maybe you might have to be tough. Sometimes you have to be tough. Tough compassions is better than passive anger. Tough compassions is healthier, better for both than passive anger and hatred. And so therefore, so that is one thing. And in terms of that, there is, I think someone asked his own Dalai Lama, what happens if someone come in, try to, with the weapons, how do you respond? And he said, run as fast as possible. his response was, try to run as fast as possible. Yes.
So Geshe, when the Buddha's cousin,
Uh-huh.
was always trying to harm him, especially at the end when he was trying to throw boulders down to kill him. But yet the Dalai Lama was always just out of reach of that. So was that because
what is the Lama out of reach?
not the Dalai Lama, but Buddha was always out of reach of that. Was that because he was like, what was protecting him? Was it because he had no hate, or he was
No,
he
he
had achieved enlightenment, that he
he has
couldn't be
achieved
hurt, he couldn't be
enlightenment. There is
hurt
no
by
more negative karma. There's no more negative karma to get harm, receive harm, obscuration, negative karma to receive the harm from any of that. Yeah. Because of his enlightenment. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, please.
Yamachanka, what about the wrathful deities?
That is what I'm saying. The compassionate, rough toughness is better than passive anger. That some of those wrathful deities, such as Yamantaka, are manifestations of ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom. So that kind of actions that is based on ultimate compassion and wisdom is a tough actions, wrathful action, but it is nothing harm to others. There's not even one corner, even one side of wanting to hurt, harm. So that is different. That's different. Is a parent out of true compassion. Of course, parent when they are kind of tough on their children, they're not always necessarily out of comparison. Sometimes they lose their mind, they are upset and angry, frustrated in that moment. But there are also sometimes when they are not frustrated and angry, but they really see the child is behaving something bad, which is not good for themselves. And sometimes they have explained with peacefully and they don't understand, and sometimes they have to be a little bit more wrathful. But that wrathful comes from really wanting to help them for their goodness. And sometimes those actions are necessary according to the different individuals, you know. And that is why you find, you know, the deities, Buddhas, when it can be trained, subdued by peaceful means, that they don't have to arise as a wrathful. But in some sentient beings, even peacefully, they cannot be subdued and they cannot be kind of trained, and then they have to manifest in a wrathful aspect to do that, you know. So, but it has to be to such a wrathful manifestation, it has to be rooted in that kind of true, love, bodhicitta, and wisdom, So that is the importance. And and there's very different feelings, even as a child, as a student, when your parent, your children's, when they act a little bit more tough, they can feel whether they are acting out of compassion or whether they are acting out of the disturbed mind. A lot of times they can feel it, whether it's shouting, whether it's whatever wrathful kind of rough or tough kind of behavior actions. They can feel whether there's coming because they really care for me and they don't want me to make mistakes and they really want care, or whether they are disturbed. And if you see that they are disturbed, then it hurts you. It hurts you and it doesn't change you. It makes you more upset. But when you see that it's coming from out of compassion, you don't feel hurt. You don't have same response. And it helps, Yeah. Okay. And so that is I think very that about that, not to allow our mind to be disturbed and unhappy regardless what happened, by reflecting, contemplating whether there is whether that problem that is making you unhappy can be fixed or not. If it can be fixed, don't get unhappy and worry and fearful, try to fix it. If it's something that you cannot do anything about, they cannot fix, then don't waste your time thinking about it, being waiting about it, being fearful about it, being unhappy about it. Instead, you just accept, just like sometimes the nature of samsara is suffering. Sometimes that's what it is, Sometimes we cannot fight against it. We can make things a little bit less painful, less suffering, but, just like fighting against the dead. You cannot fight against the dead, And if you accept that happened to everyone, it's a natural, you become less fearful, less worried, less unhappy. If you don't accept that, then you are trying to fight against it until the last breath, and you suffer so much, you struggle so much, you go through so much pain because you are fighting against something that you cannot win, that cannot be fixed. You cannot stop the death anyway. And so, that make not only you are unable to, but you go through so much, pain and anger and unhappiness. It shouldn't happen, but it's happening. I shouldn't die, but I'm dying. And so therefore I could be upset with so many things. Maybe the doctors are not doing enough, good enough. Maybe I didn't take care of myself. That's why maybe this and that. And so we find all different reasons to get upset and angry, and your mind is, at the end, you cannot stop it, but you go through so much this kind of unhappiness and that. That's the difference, how you respond. You might not change the situation because it's something you cannot change, cannot fix, but whether you experience so much unhappy and pain by not being able to accept it, or you just kind of embrace it, joyfully, and you don't have to experience the mental anguish, the mental pain, the mental sufferance, the mental unhappiness. Yes.
So Yeshua, I don't quite know how to say this, but in terms of like when something happens, like I was talking about Devadatta, and he wound up being, that stone wound up hurting him and killing him in the end, the one that he meant for the Buddha. So this thing about the wrathful deities, are they the ones that allow that to happen so that, I mean, I know it's our karma, but where did the wrathful deities come into it? Like, can they put something into motion like that? Because they see that's what we really need to come to our senses?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't think there's nothing to do with wrathful deity in terms of that Devadatta experiencing his own result of his own actions. It is what goes around, come around, that you try to take someone's life and then it comes to you, as simple as that. In that cases, the wrathful deities is just like I give an example of the parent treating our children. That is more like the parent can have peaceful aspect and more wrathful aspect. And if it's coming from out of compassion, first they try to explain with the peaceful aspect. And if a lot of time the children will understand that and they will get it. Same with well, sometimes certain children doesn't get it. And then again, with real compassion, they wanted to help them, not because they are upset and angry, but because of that. And sometimes those kind of being a little bit tough and wrathful, to some students, it helped them to kind of stop doing those harmful and hurtful, engage in those actions. And so same way, the wrathful deity can manifest in similar way like that, yeah. As I mentioned, I'm not here, but like sometimes I've seen also His Holiness the Lama even being little wrathful, showing wrathful aspect. And again, sometimes he has tried to show the aspect of peaceful to explain to the monks so many times, 10 times, 100 times. Still, some of them don't get it. Many of them get it. 1 time, 2 times they get it. Some of them still they don't get it. And sometimes His Holiness have to show the wrathful aspect. And there is nothing to do because his mind will disturb anything, but he sees that is bad karma to them. It's bad for the Dharma. It's bad for the communities, the monks communities itself. It's nothing to do with him, but such behavior is creating a lot of negative karma for the individual themselves. Is creating a lot of negative towards the Sangha community. People started, Sangha are doing this because there's one monk is that kind of behavior. So then they started to criticize the whole community, whole Sangha. They will criticize whole Buddhist community. Oh, Buddhists are like this and this. And it creates a lot of negative karma for not only the other peoples, because of that kind of behavior and actions. And so sometimes then His Holiness showed those more wrathful aspect of that. And then by showing that wrathful aspect, then some of those, they get it. And they never do that. But they needed that lastful aspect till they get it. They couldn't get the peaceful with a peaceful explanation or peaceful aspect. They couldn't get it, even not one time, so many times. And so that is what it is, you know. In that lastful aspect, like, you know, there are times when His Holiness point certain monks and say, you know, get up, you know, in the middle of all, you know, point out, you know. And in some cases, he said, leave the teachings, you know. And so again, and not those monks have feel negative feeling towards His Holiness because they feel it come from compassion that, you know, they didn't feel angry and upset and all these negative feelings, you know. So that is one small example of what I would expect, you know, because sometimes that is important, needed, you know. Okay, so I think maybe that's all for today. Yeah. Dedications.
We dedicate the merit created by listening to this teaching to all sentient beings. We dedicate for the health and long lives of all our precious teachers. We dedicate for all those experiencing obstacles, specifically Diane L., Britt, Mary Jo, Rob Newton, Jana, Matt, Christopher, Ellen Archuleta, Ben Windsor, Wyatt, Raquel, Kennedy, Ethan, Rafi, Jose, Chanti, Ella, Les, Robin, and Dog Rio, and Alyssa. We dedicate for all those experiencing illness, specifically Rob N., Andy L., Joe W., Mary G., Sarah, Dana, Joanne Lutz, Bill, Patty, Jill, Jane, Rolf, Felipe, Sadie, Suzanne, Emily, and Deanne. And we dedicate for all those who have died or who are dying: Robert Redford, Charlie Kirk, Mice the squirrel, Dorothy, Lucky the dog, Contessa the dog, David Elliott, Tyler Dallas, Ernesto, Astrid, Larry Ward, Jane Goodall, Daisy the dog, Emma Blackthorne, Bailey Simmons, Greta Simmons, Diane Keaton, Suzanne Stomberg, Christine Gardner, Shelby Campbell, Bradley Campbell, Luna the dog, and the pack rat. And there's also a note here that you all may know Bill and Patty, Bill Blackmore and Patty. And Patty just recently had a very big surgery, and Bill has started a GoFundMe to help out with Patty's expenses. Dedication prayers, once in Tibetan. Gewadi La Song Gaya Jo Chi Kya Sa Sure. Jung Chil Sem Jorin Boshe Ma Ke Pa Na Ke Gyurchi Ke Wa Yang Ba Me Pa Yang Gong Me Gong Do Fe Wa Sho. Long life prayer for His Holiness the Dalai Lama, once in English. The wish-granting, wish-fulfilling Jewel, souls of every single benefit and happiness in this world, to the incomparably kind tents in the Asa I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. Oh, and I also forgot, off of the dedication list for death is Teresa Rinpoche. Okay, so for the reincarnation of Lama Zopa Rinpoche, peerless
Peerless
teacher
teacher
and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Prabhupadas and Pradis of Buddhas, victorious, fathers and sons, alone with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge and infiniteness. Please bestow them the virtue and goodness of revelation, despair, here, holding, spreading the most precious and authentic teachings through explanation and practice. You wore the ornament of patience that is lived with others, incomparable and devoted to your running requests, while striving single-pointedly for the faith of victorious one's teachings. The soul way through which all living happiness is emerged. And for the living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss! Nevertheless, through the unceasing truth of the blessings of the three jewels, and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of the reincarnation certainly be in glory for fortunate disciples.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night,
When I
everyone.
was-
Good night.
when I was
Thank you.
investigating child
Good
Thank
night.
you.
remember
Good night.
reading a quote by, of all people, Margaret Mead. And she said, abusive parents are not more cruel than others, but more hurt than others.
They're more